times here. On the Punch newspaper, big headline, very mighty headline. Fake agency scandal. HOS admits mistakes as reps uncover irregular approvals. Powerful, isn't it? The writer says reps move to secure court order to produce Adeyemi from custody. Another one says why we could not produce Adeyemi before reps committee, coming from the IGP. OAGF official confesses given State House perm sec letter to Adeyemi. The truth is unfolding, and we can't wait to see it unravel. At the top strip, 2026 budget, government agencies vote 400 billion naira for mosques, palaces, halls. The writer here says experts demand zero budgeting over wasteful votes. And on the foreign scene, front page of the Punch newspaper, top strip, Trump immigration crackdown. U.S. arrest visa overstayers at airport. By the side of the photo speak, we have the story that says how Obasanjo's team won $30 billion debt relief for Nigeria. This is coming from the one-time Minister of Finance, Okonjo Iweala. That story is on page 24, and I can't wait to see that story. COAS names GOCs for 4 new army divisions. That's on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. At the bottom strip, DSS arraigns 5 Ansaru suspects over Oyo school abduction. Hoodlums kill Lagos dispatch rider for resisting extortion. And finally, on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning says, TED Fund bars varsities with abandoned projects from 2027 funding. Those are the stories making the front page of the Punch newspaper. I missed out one, just close to the masthead. It says, Osun 2006, Adeleke kicks as police arrests SSG, 5 others. Now, those are the stories making the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. Next, Daily Sun. The Daily Sun is next this morning. Big headline, Catholic bishops open up on state of nation. The writer says, warn on insecurity, democracy elections. And the second writer says, say country bleeding, sliding into one party. That's the big headline on the Daily Sun newspaper this morning. Top strip, 2027, your votes will count, INEC assures Nigerians. Underneath that, 12.62 trillion naira debt. Tinubu has lost control of government, Atiku claims. Bottom strip, CBN approves printing of 5.71 billion naira banknotes as cash demand rises. This means a lot, affect the economy some kind of way. And then I think that story says foreign firm gets 65% of orders. Plateau governor, Nasarawa deputy governor, Israeli envoy, Onayeka Kaigama, others bid Mama Opara farewell. And then this one says, PFIPC scandal, IGP fails to produce Adeyemi, the most wanted man in Nigeria, who was once upon a time residing at the Federal Secretariat, Abuja. 2027, we are already campaigning with project delivery coming from the FCC Minister, Nyesom Wike. Let's look at the next paper this morning, The Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper says, panel chair, how fake agency got allocation in budget 2026. The writer, House Committee ends public sessions with Adeyemi's testimony. At the top strip, Sultan backs massive clampdown on terrorist hideout. Orire, DSS arraigns 5 Ansaru terrorists. Army appoints GOCs for 4 new divisions on page 4. Governorship feud festers as Oyo APC G6 insists on consensus. That's on page 5 of the Nation newspaper. Just by the side of the photo speak, we have exploit global changes for growth, Okonjo Iweala. Cardoso tell Africans. And at the bottom strip, Nigeria's first digital securities market to begin September. Finally, Nigeria smashes world record. I wonder what exact record that is precisely. But those are the stories making the front page of the Nation newspaper. Grab yourself a copy now. Next, the Nigerian Tribune. The Nigerian Tribune, big headline here on the Nigerian Tribune says, tension in Osun as police arrest SSG and 5 others. Tension in Osun as police arrest SSG, 5 others. That story is on page 13. The riders announce recovery of 4.8 million naira voters register. Adeleke Adeleke's campaign council raises concern over arrest ahead of poll. Stakeholders reject police commissioner at meeting, demand his redeployment. INEC assures of credible poll, deploys 4,427 BVAs or BVAs, extends PVC collection. Underneath the photo speak, DSS arraigned 2 Ansaru commanders, 3 others over Orire abduction and killings. That's on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. At the top strip, article tackles Tinubu for exceeding 2024 borrowing limit by 4.79 trillion naira. Plot to remove me is about 2027, not on performance, Ondo speaker alleges. That story is on page 15, as the writer says lawmakers allege misconduct as reason for planned removal. PFIPC, IGP asked reps panel to obtain warrant for police to produce Adeyemi. The writer says head of service admits administrative lapses. That's on page 28 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. Now let's look at our next paper, which is the New Telegraph newspaper. The New Telegraph newspaper says here, SA to Tinubu, blame Igbo King, arrest 500 criminal Nigerians for xenophobic attacks. SA to Tinubu, blame Igbo King, arrest of 500 criminal Nigerians for xenophobic attacks. The writer says outlines 3 specific areas of concern that heightened recent tensions. At the top strip, FY25, CBN profit up 251.3% to 136.44 billion naira. Assets hit 138.86 trillion naira. Underneath that says Dangote refinery critical to Nigeria's $1 trillion economic vision. This coming from the federal government. Underneath the photo speak, PFIPC, why we can't produce fake DG for reps probe. This coming from the IGP. Tension Mars Stakeholders Forum. INEC extends PVC collection. Those are the stories making the front page of the New Telegraph newspaper this morning. Next, Daily Independent newspaper. The Daily Independent says, telcos call out states if a crippling operations lag. The writer dismissed telecom tariff hike if a NCC cost study. The top strip, IGP cites court order for not producing fake PFIPC chief. CBN hits financial institutions with 1.69 billion naira penalty. Agriculture grows 3.2%, defines security, inflation wars. Then other stories by the side of the photo speak. Dangote refinery key to Nigeria's $1 trillion economy target from federal government on page 7. Page 7 also has a story that says Army Chief appoints GOCs for new divisions. Page 6 says focus on failures, not grandstanding. Atiku urges Tinubu. Page 6 also says ADC again asks NJC to discipline Justice Levy over party's registration order. And finally, on page 6, at the front page says, TED fund to bar institutions delaying projects from 207 allocation cycle. At the bottom strip and the final story on the front page of the Daily Independent newspaper says, FG arraigns man for allegedly funding ISWAP Boko Haram. That's on page 6 of the Nigerian Independent newspaper this morning. Next is the Guardian newspaper. Big story here says opposition flays Tinubu focus on re-election, loses confidence in INEC. Opposition flays Tinubu's focus on re-election, loses confidence in INEC. Other stories here: xenophobia, Lesotho woos Nigeria as FD South Africa resumes talks. US to stop visa processing at Abuja Embassy, 24 other African missions. Oshun Amokwiton meets stakeholders amid tension. Those are some of the major stories making the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Let's look at the Daily Trust newspaper. Says here, we approved phantom cancel without due diligence coming from the HOS. Kaduna attack. I begged my murderer. Sorry, I'll take that again. It says, Kaduna attack. I begged my murdered father to flee, coming from a survivor of the Kaduna attack. Residents displaced as windstorm destroys houses in Yobe. Marketers, NMDPRA, bicker over fuel import licenses. And the bottom strip here says human trafficking, fake jobs, social media, lure young Nigerians. Those are the papers this morning. Let's get into the studio so we can have a conversation with Mr. Bonnie Akeze, whom I'll rather call Professor.